This is Lew Temple. You know me as Axel on The Walking Dead, and we're talking with the Examiner. Good to be here. We're at Spooky Empire in Orlando, Florida. This is a huge convention, a horror convention.
One of the best.
It is one of the best in the country. Happy to be here. Sunday afternoon, or Sunday morning, so it's a big day, the last day, and I've had a fantastic time. It's been really great.
Cool. How hard is it dying on screen?
Well, it's a good question, because since most of us don't have that experience of what dying is, and we can't go to a reserve of know-how to do that, it's very difficult, and you never feel like you get it right. I have had at least the experience of dying several times, and I continue to try to hone that craft of what dying is, but it is difficult. I think the main thing that I try to approach it is to honor my character's death. And I think it's an honor in life to watch somebody die, so I always hold it in great reverence and honor, and I try for it not to be too harrowing and sad. So I suppose that's a little bit how I want to go, with honor and dignity.
Okay. How did you first become interested in acting?
It's a good story. There was a really pretty girl with a tight pair of jeans, and I walked into an acting class following her to perhaps get a date, and I saw the group of actors on stage working, and I said I can do that, and of course I couldn't, but I could try. So I went to get an education in acting in the form of learning stagecraft at Brooklyn College, and started from there. But that's really, I didn't grow up with an intention to be an actor. I didn't know much about being an actor. But I liked story time. I liked Once Upon a Time, and I liked playing hide and seek, and I liked listening to a story and telling a story, and so I think that's always served me in my acting career.
Okay. Did you get the date at least too?
Did I get the date? I believe I did. I believe I did get the date, happy to say.
Okay, good. How did you end up on The Walking Dead?
Well, again, you go through the audition process. I was certainly well aware of the fact that we had a Walking Dead comic book or graphic novel, to be honest. But I didn't know that they could pull it off in a television show, and certainly they did. I had auditioned originally for the pilot, the role of Merle, that they actually hired Michael Rooker, thankfully. And then I auditioned for Merle's brother, who they didn't have a name for at that time, and they didn't even had written sides or script for him, and that was Daryl. And of course they hired Norman Reedus, thankfully. So when Axel came around, they asked me if I would give that a shot, and it was a good fit. So they knew about me and they knew of me, and this was just a good place.
Okay. When we first get to know Axel, it almost appeared that maybe he was in jail for a sex crime or other deviant behavior when he was with the women. And isn't that interesting line all the time?
Yes.
Was there another direction that your character might have been heading on the show?
Yes. That's a good observation. We certainly were what I call reserving fangs for Axel. That he wasn't perhaps what he seemed to be. He seemed to be a bit of a pathological liar. I mean, first of all, he was in prison for pharmaceuticals, drug use. Then he's in prison for holding up a store, a bank with a water pistol. What's the real story? If you'll notice, I never really unbuttoned Axel. We didn't see him, but the plan was that when you did, he would be covered with tattoos, and that the possibility was that he might have been a murderer, rapist, serial killer type in prison, and much more dangerous on the inside than he was presenting. We never really got to pursue that option, but it was certainly there. So I would try each week and each episode to drop little inklings of mistrust about him. But generally he went out as a good, colloquial, southern, gregarious type of guy. And I wanted to honor him, so I felt like we did a good job in his exit.
In some ways, in his death, he saved Carol's life.
I would agree with that. I would say that was a life that was sacrificed for the good of the common group.
Right. You've worked with some high-profile directors like Gore Verbinski, Rob Zombie, Tony Scott multiple times.
Yes.
What is it about you that makes a director say, I want to work with Lew again?
I think the idea that they can count on me to bring something to the party and not the same thing. I think that they recognize he'll bring some variety to this role, and I will appreciate his commitment to bringing that variety to the role. Tony Scott told me, he said, I can't hire you for everything I do, but I can hire you for a lot of things that I do because I know there's always a place that you'll fit in. I think the basis of my work is to blend in and serve the story, so that keeps me working. I'm also a professional on set. I'm easy to work with. I'm fun to work with. I enjoy the work. I'm committed and focused, and I fit well. I'm a good fit. So I think the directors that you mentioned and other directors generally like to have me around. I'm a team player.
Okay. Speaking of gore, I once interviewed Abigail Breslin for Rango.
Yes.
An anime movie not really done in the traditional sense.
Right.
For those who don't know about it, can you talk about making of that movie?
Yeah, that was great. I mean, it was so much fun and absolutely ridiculous because, of course, we were animated, but the movie was filmed and legitimately filmed on a soundstage. So we actually put costume on and became the characters. So as I became Mr. Fergus, the owner of the general store down at the end of the road, we limped around like whatever animal that we were and talked in our voices and did the entire movie filmed. And then we'd walk across the soundstage into a sound booth and record it like a voice recording. So what happened then were the animators were able to see our interaction very specifically and draw. So that we've seen the movie, now we're going to animate it, and they were able to take our facial expressions and put them on the faceplates of the 3D characters. And I think it just lent itself to the vibrancy of what the movie is, and the movie really became alive, and it really popped, and it really had life into these animations. It was adorable. Occasionally Johnny Depp would say, "Gore, you do remember we're animated?" Yeah, I know what I'm doing, and he did. And we won an Oscar, by the way, for it. Knocked Pixar off their pedestal for a minute.
It was well earned. I was rooting for you guys too.
It was
and it was nice. And to me, it was refreshing that not every animated movie has to come out in 3D.
Yeah, exactly. And also there was a certain adult element to it with humor, and I thought it was it was great.
Okay. You have worked on some big studio pictures, and you've worked on some independents too.
Yeah.
What is it working on an independent film you like better than working on a studio?
Well, I like the opportunities on independent that I personally might get to explore a character that I may not be afforded to. Big studio pictures have a lot at stake, and they have a lot of requirement for everybody to be part of the team, and the experimenting and the stretching of a character aren't necessarily as available as you'd like. On an indie, I get the opportunity to really go off and develop a character, and I really enjoy that is the challenge, and I like to flex that muscle or stretch that muscle, if you will. And so I just think that an indie has a certain learning curve to it, to who this character is, and there's a little more time. That being said, there's less resource in the form of financing. That means there's less days to work, typically. Used to be you do an independent movie and it'd be 30 days. Now you do them in 18, so you got to get her done. You've got to, like a studio, have your work in place before you show up. So it's changing. But also I think on an independent film, I might get an opportunity to do a role that I wouldn't get to do let's say a military guy. I never do that guy. I never am the authoritative type, and particularly not in a studio movie. But an independent film, I might get the opportunity. That'd be a muscle I haven't used, and certainly one that I'd like to try as, military corporal or something.
Okay, you appear to have a very strong grasp on your craft of acting. Do you have any interest in one day stepping behind the camera to direct?
I do. I feel like I would be a good director. I'm not sure that my use of time. I feel like, as you have noticed, I'm a bit verbose, and I feel like I would eat up a lot of our sets time, our day shooting with conversation with actors about character and development. And let's try this, and I'm not sure how efficient I would be in the economy of time, but I do feel like I have a sense of telling a story and what it takes, and I've certainly got a lot of experience. So yeah, I'd like the opportunity to direct at some point.
You would absolutely be an actor's director for sure.
I would think so. And I think at some point we'd get half the movie made, and the producer would say, "All right, enough. You get one shot today, and keep moving."
Okay, a couple more questions. Can you talk about any some upcoming projects you got coming? People, fans might be interested in.
I have a movie coming out on. It's streaming. It's a free download called Camouflage. It's about the Aurora shooting incident, which is it's an awful thing that we have these shootings. But there's a little bit of a theory behind a conspiracy theory to this film, and how these things occur and what's behind it. So you just have to go, just camouflage the movie, and you can download it for free because we're trying to raise funds for awareness of some of these issues. Also, I have a fun movie coming out called Shangri-La Suite, which is two young kids in 1974 coming to kill Elvis Presley because he got fat, and I play a really interesting character in the desert that gives them some information, and it's really cool. And I'm working right now in New Orleans, just starting a film with Halle Berry called Kidnap, which is very similar to Taken, and I take her son and she chases me to get her son back.
Okay. And finally, what do you love most about acting?
The thing that I've been talking about, telling a story. I think when all this goes down, when your camera goes down and the grid goes down, that we'll still get back. We'll still be around the campfire, starting it off with Once Upon a Time, or One Time There Was This Boy. And I adore presenting that, and I adore listening to that. So I think that what I like about acting is telling a story, and then really building a character. I really get into the work of building a character, preparation and rehearsal, and finding who the character is.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. Keep tuning into the Examiner. You follow me?